Thank you very much, Gilbert. I'm very happy to be here. I will share my screen and I hope everyone can hear me okay here. So my name is Arthur Kwan and I'm the CEO of the Newly Institute, and we're very happy to be here. Our mission at the Newly Institute is to improve the lives of military veterans suffering from PTSD, first responders suffering from depression, and First Nations communities that are dealing with addiction issues. We believe that our proprietary treatment by fusing a bio, psycho, social, spiritual treatment model along with psychedelic assisted therapies, our clients can overcome trauma, depression, anxiety, and various other mental health indications. We are on track to becoming Canada's largest operator of psychedelic assisted psychotherapy clinics. You know, we have locations being developed in Calgary, Fredericton, and Edmonton. And I'll talk to you a little bit about our plans to go public here by the end of the year as well. And the schedule for our opening of our clinics, which is inside of 3 months. So, you know, with COVID-19 and the pandemic, mental health issues is very topical right now. Depending on what report you read, you know, it can cost upwards of $50 billion to the Canadian economy. What we're doing is we're looking at research from very credible institutions, including Johns Hopkins University, Imperial College of London, or New York University, who have all set up research hubs to further research the benefits of psychedelic compounds to treat various mental health indications. And again, we have a very specialized target market in military veterans, first responders, First Nations, and also people that are off work due to long-term disabilities. Here is the leadership team. So we put together a best-in-class team of psychiatrists, other doctors, psychologists, at the Newly Institute. So for example, Rob Tangway, our Chief Medical Officer, he's a psychiatrist that have done 2 fellowships, one of a few in Canada. His fellowships were in addiction medicine and pain medicine. Dr. Marshall Ross, who's our Chief Scientific Officer, he wrote a research paper on the intranasal administration for ketamine. And then what we also did was we also brought on board 2 senior ranking officers of the Canadian military in with us, both retired now. So Colonel Richard Pucci, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Newly Institute. He was the former Chief of Staff to the Surgeon General and was responsible for the building and development of over 20 medical clinics in his career. Colonel and Dr. Rakesh Jetley, who spent 31 years with the Canadian military. He was the chief psychiatrist for the military. So if it had anything to do with mental health and the Canadian Armed Forces, he was at the apex. And myself, I come from an investment banking background. I started in 1997 with TD Asset Management, and then from there moved over to Scotia Capital. I spent the better part of 18 years as an investment banker before moving over to the cannabis sector as a fund manager and as a co-founder of a cannabis company, which ultimately sold. Here's the rest of the team in Chinese. And then what we did was we also put together a medical advisory board of the leading psychiatrists and physicians dealing in pain, mood, and depression across Canada. I don't have time to give you an overview of each one, but each one of these doctors have received awards for their research or for their teachings. But for example, Marie-Claire Bourque on the top left there, she's currently the mental health and wellness coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Marlies, and the National Ballet. Atul Kular on the top there. He's based in Edmonton. He's the consulting psychiatrist for the Canadian Winter Olympic team and the Edmonton Oilers. And then Jennifer Swainson, she wrote the CANMAT guidelines for the administration of ketamine for depression. So you can see this is really a who's who of psychiatrists and other doctors across Canada. And then to round out the team, what we did was we also put together an advisory board of specialists, whether it's pharmacology or psychotherapy or first responders or veterans, just to help round out the team here. And this is our rollout plan. So currently we're building out Calgary, Fredericton, and Edmonton. The Calgary clinic should be open inside of 3 months. So we're targeting end of August, early September. Fredericton is right behind there. We're targeting end of September, early October, and then Edmonton will be after that. We have plans to roll out 8 clinics across Canada, and you can see that the clinics have more of a look and feel of a high-end spa, for example. And so, some people may be wondering why we're targeting, for example, Fredericton and Edmonton and Ottawa, is because we want to be close to the military bases, as that's a targeted clientele for us and for our clinics. What we're able to do also is to provide clinical studies as another source of revenue. So, for example, those companies that are in the drug development phase, they're developing a proprietary molecule based on psychedelic compounds. Well, we can help them do their clinical trials for them, and that's another source of revenue for the Newly Institute. And what we're also doing is we're preparing an app so that we can collect, harvest, and analyze the data of veterans, first responders, and First Nations. Down the road, we plan to collect data on their sleeping habits, their eating habits, their exercise habits, and their responsiveness to different modalities of psychotherapy, and their responsiveness to different psychedelic compounds. And as you know, that data can be very valuable because we can customize treatment for a specific subset of the population. And to increase traffic to our clinics, we have formed relationships or are forming relationships with different organizations, including Heroic Hearts Project or Wounded Warriors or Retrain Canada, to act as additional sources of referrals for our clinics. And here's our milestones. The important thing to take away from this slide is that we do have plans to go public here before the end of the year. By the time we go public, we should have 3 clinics open, all accepting patients, and we will be in revenue and achieving hopefully positive cash flow by the end of the year here. We are raising $2 million in a pre-IPO round at 75 cents per share. We have approximately 15 million shares outstanding, so that implies an $11 million pre-money valuation. And I'll go through the use of proceeds in the next slide, but right now our balance sheet is very clean. We have no debt, and we have about $2 million in the bank right now. So the Calgary and Fredericton clinics are fully funded. We're raising an additional $2 million so that we can build out the Edmonton and Ottawa clinics, and then as well as allocate some funds towards some strategic alternatives, including First Nations, doing clinical trials, and layering in a pain treatment component to our clinics. For example, we're talking to a couple of First Nations groups about setting up Canada's very first psychedelic assisted psychotherapy clinics on First Nations lands. We feel that people that are investing at this stage, is getting equity in a company at a very compelling valuation. So again, we're raising $2 million at a $11 million pre-money valuation. And when you look at some of the other companies out there with clinics that are already public, including Field Trip, Novamind, and Numinous on the bottom line there, you can see the market capitalizations of these companies. And so there's tremendous potential for us at the Newly. So here's some of the reasons why we're different. You know, we have a best-in-class team of doctors. We are on track to becoming the largest operator of psychedelic-assisted clinics in Canada. Through our application and our database, we'll have valuable data on veterans, first responders, and First Nations to customize treatment. And the other thing that's different about us is that we have a short path towards an IPO. Again, our plan is to go public before the end of the year here. And then multiple revenue streams, low valuations, strategic partnerships, and significant growth. We want to expand into the US as part of the use of proceeds with our IPO. So that's a little bit about the Newly Institute. My contact information is here. So if you have any additional questions, you know, feel free to reach out to me. But at this time, I'll pass it back to Gilbert and I'll open it up to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur. So we have a few questions here. The first one coming from Marx, that what's your daily throughput on your locations? So since the effects of psychedelics can take hours.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Gilbert. So so on a typical clinic, we expect about 60 patients per month. And so with our first psychedelic drug that we're using is ketamine, just because it's legal right now in Canada, and ketamine is being used in hospitals and clinics every day. And so at 60 patients a month, each clinic can generate, not at 100% capacity, but even at a 75% capacity, our clinics are able to generate in excess of $2.5 million in revenue with an EBITDA or positive cash flow of $1 million.
So the next question from Wayne here, will you plan to go public in the future?
Yes, so we do have plans to go public before the end of the year. So we're targeting Q4. In fact, we're gearing up for an audit right now. Our year end is June 30th. We haven't decided whether to do a reverse takeover or a straight IPO. We are in discussions with a couple shells, and if we're able to find the right shell, then we would have no problems doing an RTO. But we also would not have a problem doing a straight IPO as well. In terms of the exchange, right now we're looking at potentially the TSX Venture, the Canadian Securities Exchange, and the NEO Exchange. So we're still playing around with the benefits, you know, the advantages and disadvantages of each exchange right now.
Sure. So next question from Mona is that, are there any companies working in the PTSD treatment? So I guess it's about competitions and whatnot.
Yeah, so really there are ketamine clinics open right now, but we're much more than that. So what makes us different at the Newly is that we're the only IOP clinic, so intensive outpatient clinic, offering psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. So we're not just, you know, injecting guys with ketamine. We're really, you know, a psychotherapy clinic of which ketamine is part of the equation for now. And then down the road, we plan to incorporate the use of psilocybin and MDMA into our treatment protocols as well.
So the next question is from Jace Fortam. It's the second question. He asked two questions, so will be the second question that I'm picking. With the number of clinics here you have planned to open, so do you anticipate additional capital raises beyond this point?
Yeah, so this is our pre-IPO raise, so we don't anticipate another round until we go public. And so, and that, ideally, no one can predict the future, but I think our IPO price will be at a significant premium to the 75 cents that we're raising now. But this is the last round before we go public.
And then one more here also is, in comparing Lilly to its peer group, what are the best valuation metrics to think about using for investors?
Yes, so that's a great question, Gilbert. So when you look at some of the other clinical models out there that are public, including Field Trip, Numinous, or Novamind, they all have clinics out there. But again, the thing that makes us different is Novamind, their clinics are in Utah. Field Trip, most of their clinics are in large urban areas in the U.S., like Chicago, Atlanta. So we're Canadian, and we're going to be the largest psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy clinic operator in Canada. In fact, before the end of the year, we'll have 3 locations up and running, and we'll have another 3 additional locations in Canada, sort of in that Q1 2022.
Okay. And then one question from the Chinese side here from Winnie. He's asking you if the people get depression from during this pandemic because of the pandemic, will that the treatment help them at all?
Yes, 100%. And that's why we're, this is such an exciting field. There's been a whole renaissance of research about how psychedelic compounds can help treat mental health indications, whether it's PTSD or depression or anxiety, and even addiction like alcoholism or drug addiction. It can help. And these are, this is research coming from very credible universities and institutions, Gilbert. Like we're talking about the Johns Hopkins University, New York University School of Medicine, Yale University, for example. So very prestigious institutions are doing research. So definitely it can help someone suffering from depression.
Thank you. I think I got most of the questions here for you, Arthur. So
Okay.
Thank you again for your time, for sharing your latest update.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gilbert, for having me. And thanks everyone for your time. Have a great day now.
Thank you, Arthur.